This is Bodycam, one of the most realistic FPS shooters I've ever seen. You take the POV of some goober with a body cam, and it is absolutely ridiculous how horrifying this game can be. Like, seriously, if I put a Live Leak logo in the corner of this video and took off the FPS counter, you'd probably think this was real. The game looks fantastically surreal, and it's almost worth the absolutely ridiculous minimum spec requirements. Almost. I have a very capable PC with a 4070 and 7800X3D. Yes, I know, not the best combination. I'm waiting for the 50 series, but most of the time I can't even reach 70 FPS at 1440p with FSR on quality. Regardless, I do understand why the performance is the case. It's just something that I figured I'd mention, considering most of the PC market doesn't have the facilities to run this game with the types of settings you're seeing here. Definitely think about your specs or wait for the DLSS update in Q3 before buying this, since even I was a little frustrated with my FPS at times, although I think the FPS of this game matters far less than other shooters out there. Enough with my graphics rant then, let's talk about the gameplay. The most glaring thing you can see is that there's practically no HUD at all other than your teammates' names, and this makes the game beautifully confusing to play. Because of this, the only way to know how many bullets are left in your gun is to A, know how many bullets your gun holds, and B, count the shots you make. Obviously, this is probably beyond most players' capabilities right now, so most of the time you're just going to have to spray and pray and hope that you have bullets left. You have grenades too. I know, shocker, right? Which you have to pull the pin of to get them going rather than just sending them off with your grenade button. The view model for all of these things are dynamic, unlike pretty much all other shooters out there. Wherever your mouse goes, your gun goes, and that's normal. But this tracks your mouse much more realistically than any other FPS that I've played. Note, if you're prone to motion sickness, this game will probably cause it because of this dynamic view model. There's no crosshair or any guides at all present here, so you have to use your own eyes to aim, which is extremely challenging to say the least if you're used to more traditional FPSs like I am. You also die extremely easily in this game, realistically I guess. It usually only takes 1 or 2 shots to take you down, so this encourages super slow play rather than the typical amphetamine-fueled rage you get in a normal FPS. When you die, you get entered into this drone mode, where you play as a drone that's about as fragile as your 90-year-old man's knees. I swear to God I could fucking breathe on these drones and they'd probably fall out of the sky. Regardless, as a drone you can signal to your teammates where the enemy is via flashlight, rave, or yelling your ass off at them. Essentially play support. When your drone inevitably gets shot down or you smash it into a wall, you spectate other players and can't talk to them. It's a very interesting concept and one that I think works very well for this game, and one that might even work for other shooters like it. The game makes itself super complicated because of these factors, especially because it's almost impossible to see your opponents in certain scenarios. All of the maps have a day and night cycle. During the night cycle, you cannot see shit. And even in the day cycle, some places just get too bright to make out the difference between your opponent and anything else. Your answer to that problem may be to just use the flashlight or a laser, but it's a lot more complicated than that. If you use a laser or a flashlight, you're essentially telegraphing your location to your enemy. This is why in most matches you'll see people periodically turning on and off their flashlights to maintain the balance between stealth and ability to see jack shit. Now, originally I didn't really see the utility of the laser since you have your sights anyways and it reveals your location, but after further inspection, I think you should use lasers in this game. Because aiming is incredibly hard in this game, and pinpointing your bullets onto your enemy is equally as hard. Lasers give you a bit of room to work with since you now know where your bullets are definitively going. You really have to play this game for yourself to understand what it feels like, but I hope I gave you some idea of how much of a shitfest this game can turn into, especially within multiplayer. I'd describe multiplayer in this game as a lot like Counter-Strike if all the players were on some sort of medication that made it so they couldn't move faster than a fucking snail all the time. And you can team kill, although you're literally deducted kills from your KDR for doing so, which is fucking hilarious. This style of multiplayer is a little bit annoying for someone used to more faster gameplay, but it's something you'll get used to if you want to survive. People will hold angles with more care than they have for their firstborn child in this game, so if you pass a corner with even a foot sticking out, you're going to die faster than you can say pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcaniconiosis. Well, maybe faster than that. The community is about what you'd expect from an FPS shooter, although it's much more chill than the Modern Warfare lobbies I remember.
Yeah. had two bullets in me.
Hell, boy. Shut your bitch ass.
There's a lot of different game modes, but I'd wholeheartedly recommend just doing deathmatch or team deathmatch. I think it's just more suited towards this game than the CSGO-esque bomb planting. I honestly think single player would probably be a better format for this game, or at least something PvE like how Ready or Not has done it. The devs have promised a zombie mode in the future though, so we'll see how that goes. The multiplayer in this game just feels a little off to me, a little too tactical, where you're kind of forced to sweat your balls off to win the game. Now, obviously, I've played a lot of shooters, so this might just be my previous experience coming through. Regardless, I didn't have a lot of issues with multiplayer, other than that I was pretty goddamn garbage all the time, but that's my own fault. The server system is peer-to-peer, so you might want to have a VPN on for this game. I imagine IP grabbing will become an issue in the future, since this is a shooter, so hopefully they'll switch over to dedicated servers in the full release of the game. I have seen a Reddit post claiming that the devs banned someone from the Discord for talking about peer-to-peer. Obviously, I don't have all the details of this, but if it's true, it doesn't spell good news for the game, since peer-to-peer servers are a genuine security risk in a lot of cases, especially in games that can get heated like this one. I think even more so than other shooters. I'm obviously not going to accuse the devs of anything yet, because A, I don't have any fucking evidence, and B, they're a very small team, but I would look for a switch to dedicated servers in the future. For anyone wondering why peer-to-peer servers is a potential security risk, it's mostly because in peer-to-peer, you're directly connected to other players that host the servers, so your IP can theoretically be grabbed at any moment. This could potentially reveal geographical location, your internet service provider, and general information about you, which is not very fun when you're on the receiving end of this treatment. Lots of games do this, to be fair. GTA 5 has for years, albeit their security system is shit regardless, but it's still something to keep in mind, since this game has the potential to make people angry at each other, and thus increase the chance people will want to IP grab and then use that IP to DDoS, dox, etc., etc. I'd recommend using a VPN for this reason, since it saves you from the low-level hacker man fucks that just want to DDoS you and thinks it's funny as shit. And no, this is not a transition for a sponsor. I am way too small of a channel for that. It's just something I think you should know. There's also a fair few bugs when it comes to multiplayer that I've seen, mainly the voice chat not working correctly for whatever reason. I'm not sure if I'm doing this shit wrong, but I cannot for the life of me get my voice to transmit to other people in online matches, but I can in fucking solo matches. There's also some slowdown issues. I imagine this is because the host disconnects at some point or whatever, but the proportional response by the game is to move your head around like a fucking swivel and disorient you like a motherfucker, which is very frustrating. There's some other minor bugs, like your drone being able to see through the map a little when it dies, and sometimes seeing through walls when flicking your head around like a paranoid schizophrenic, but nothing I'd constitute as very bad. This game's in early access, so I won't beat down on it too hard, but players should probably be aware of this before they consider purchasing the game. I have to admit, it's very remarkable, though, that this game is so polished with how early a state it's in. I have to applaud the devs for listening to the community and fixing these issues in a prompt fashion. So, do I think that this style of FPS will be taking over the majority in the future? Probably not, but I do think that games like this will have a very valid position within the FPS space. I still think the titans of FPS, being CS, COD, and others, will still be on top, but I think games like Bodycam will cement themselves as some of the best in the industry. The games that come to mind that have done something similar to Bodycam are Ready or Not and Insurgency Sandstorm, both incredibly successful games and ones that are still relevant today. I think this style of game leans more towards what Ready or Not has been doing. PvE content and a mission-based campaign, but Bodycam has brought this format into the multiplayer space, and while not perfect, it does a lot with what it's got. You can buy Bodycam on Steam for around $30, which is an absolute fucking steal for the absolute world-shattering graphics, if you can run it, that is. The game's still in early access, so I'd probably hold out until there's more to see from the devs, but the future's looking pretty bright for this game. The roadmap for this game has got a lot of improvements throughout this year, including DLSS. Thank God. NVIDIA users rejoice. It's also going to be getting a fucking zombie game mode, which is going to be fucking nuts. I do have some concerns about movement in comparison to, say, Black Ops 3 zombies, since you're characters and their actions are very fucking slow, but I imagine they'll figure it out. I imagine this game is going to be one of the biggest FPSs in the future, so hop in on it if you can. It's a blast when you aren't getting smashed into bits by fuckers holding angles like their entire family is being held hostage for them. Goddamn, I need a Xanax.